Hello race fans, I'm Justin from NRN, the Noble Racing Network, and I want to go back down memory lane to look at what is still considered to this day one of the biggest controversies in the history of NASCAR. I'm talking of course about the 1990 First Union 400 from North Wilkesboro. So let's put the car in reverse and take a look back at this controversial race. The 1990 season was 3 months old by the time NASCAR rolled into North Wilkesboro for some short track racing. Since the track had first opened in the 1940s, Wilkesboro had been the site of some amazing finishes, like Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt's last lap incident that kept both drivers from winning that day. The 1990 First Union 400's finish is still remembered to this day, but not so much because of the racing that took place on the track as it is the circumstances of the win. Mark Martin was having a great season and had qualified on the pole with Jeffrey Bodine to his outside. But most thought that Morgan Shepherd would be the one to watch because he had yet to finish outside the top 10 and was currently second in the standings behind point leader Dale Earnhardt. The green flag waved in front of a sellout crowd, which is something you don't see much of these days. Mark Martin wasted no time trying to pull away from Jeffrey Bodine, who had his mirrors full of Earnhardt's black number 3. The first caution would wave on lap 9 when rookie Rob Moroso, Rick Mast, and Richard Petty would collide with one another. In fact, Petty drove up on top of the hood of Moroso's car. No one hit the pits and the race continues on lap 16 with Martin still leading. He quickly opens up a gap between he, Jeffrey Bodine, Earnhardt, and Dick Trickle. Dale Earnhardt begins to fall back through the field due to a loose race car while Trickle makes his way forward and tries to catch Martin for the lead. The next caution would wave on lap 100 when Dale Jarrett would spin by himself. Because of the long green flag run, 13 cars remain on the lead lap and all of them head into the pits for adjustments and tires. The race would resume on lap 105 with Martin still in the lead, but it wouldn't last long because Darrell Waltrip would fly by Martin for the top spot. The caution would wave for the third time on lap 127 when Ken Schrader would spin and hit the inside wall. Among the top 3, Waltrip and Trickle would not come down pit road. Mark Martin would make a stop for fresh tires and adjustments. The race resumed on lap 130 with Waltrip getting a great restart and securing himself in the lead once again. But a few laps later, a big crash in turn 2 when Sterling Marlin would spin Jeffrey Bodine, collecting Bill Elliott, Ken Schrader, and Ricky Rudd. None of the leaders pit, so Waltrip restarts the leader on lap 138. But on lap 152, Sterling Marlin and Jimmy Spencer would tangle, bringing out another caution. Gotta love that short track racing. Waltrip's crew gets up on the wall waiting to service the car, but Waltrip decides to stay out again. So when the race resumes on lap 164, Waltrip was still leading, only this time, Dale Earnhardt was back in second place. Earnhardt had fresher tires, so he attacks Waltrip, who had been on the same set of tires for 61 laps. But before Earnhardt could make a move, Kyle Petty spins, bringing out yet another caution. Cautions bring cautions, as they say. Waltrip stays out again to keep his lead over Dale Earnhardt, but the battle renews on lap 173 when the green flag waves again. Earnhardt and Waltrip run side by side for several laps, but Waltrip is able to hold the position on the outside. They flip-flop and now Earnhardt tries Waltrip on the outside and that works. Earnhardt becomes the new leader of the race. At that moment, the caution flag would wave again on lap 186 between Bobby Hillin and Jimmy Means. Now everyone, including Waltrip, hits the pits for fresh tires. With only a handful of laps on his tires, Brett Bodine is told to stay out, giving him the lead when the race resumes on lap 196. But as usual, the caution would come out when Jimmy Spencer would tag Richard Petty and sends him into the wall. Getting some inspiration from Waltrip, Bodine decides to stay out of the pits to keep the lead of the race when it restarts with 188 laps to go. Finally, a long green flag run begins for Brett Bodine, who is starting to increase his lead over Alan Kulwicki and Dick Trickle, who battled hard for second. Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt sneaks into the battle and takes both of the spots from Kulwicki and Trickle and sets his sights on Bodine. With 160 laps to go, Earnhardt catches Bodine, and the two race for the lead, but Bodine is just able to stay ahead. Wheel to wheel, the two drivers give it everything they've got, but finally, the Intimidator Dale Earnhardt gets around Bodine and picks up the lead of the race. Behind the leader, Mark Martin and Darrell Waltrip mount charges and slowly make their way back into the top 5. Green flag pit stops begin with 115 laps to go as Martin and Waltrip pass Brett Bodine, sending him back to 4th. Waltrip then gets around Mark Martin for second and tries to chase down Earnhardt for the lead. With 98 laps to go, Brett Bodine comes in for fresh tires and is quickly out. Earnhardt, Waltrip, and Martin stay out on the track for just a few more laps. Earnhardt and Martin finally come in for fresh tires and hands the lead back to Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip runs 2 more laps as the leader and then dives onto pit road for fresh tires to make a run for the end. As soon as Waltrip comes out of the pits, Kenny Wallace, making his first NASCAR start, slams the wall. This is where things get weird, and what unfolds next is still debated to this day. The caution comes out for Kenny Wallace, and the pace car picks up Dale Earnhardt as the leader of the race. NASCAR, however, thought that Bodine was the leader because he pitted before Earnhardt. Earnhardt and Waltrip saw that differently though. They had lapped Bodine while he was in the pits, so they believed that he should actually be at the tail end of the field. For 18 laps of caution, NASCAR is trying to figure out the scoring. They have no idea who the leader is and where the leaders should even line up. Finally, NASCAR decides that Brett Bodine should be the leader of the race, so he goes to the front and assumes the lead. But Earnhardt and Waltrip continue to disagree. They know that Bodine should not be leading the race. Despite the disputes, the race resumes with 61 laps to go, and Brett Bodine is the leader with Earnhardt second and Waltrip third. For those last 61 laps, Bodine holds off Earnhardt and Waltrip to win his first ever NASCAR race. The only problem is they are the only team in the garage that actually believes they won. The teams of Earnhardt and Waltrip, along with the press, don't believe that Bodine actually won the race. They blame NASCAR for making a scoring mistake and handing a race win to Bodine. For days after, NASCAR looked back at video and scoring to make sure they hadn't made a mistake, but they could not find anything to suggest otherwise that Bodine shouldn't have been the leader with 61 to go. Even if NASCAR did make a mistake, Bodine still held off Waltrip and Earnhardt to win, so he had a good car under him. I remember hearing Waltrip say one time that he went up to Bill France and told him that Bodine didn't win that race. Bill France replied, "Leave that boy alone. He just won his first race and you'll win plenty more." Ironically, 1990 was the first year Waltrip didn't win a race. So what do you think? Did Bodine win the race? Or was it a scoring problem and Waltrip should have won? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more NRN. I'm Justin, and thanks for watching.